there's been so many conversations and comments directly from J.K. Rowling, whether it's her saying she'd never forgive you for your views, or the fact that when she was asked what ruins the movies for her, she named yourself. And how do you think about that?
I really don't believe that by having had that experience and holding the love and support and views that I have mean that I can't and don't treasure Jo. It's my deepest wish that I hope people who don't agree with my opinion will love me, and I hope I can keep loving people who I don't necessarily share the same opinion with.
Really? Oh, so that's how you're gonna play it. You gonna do this? Okay, fine. That's all I needed. That's all I needed for him to do that, and it became personal with me.
How I Defeated Fascism with the Power of Love. Chapter 1. The Power of Love. The first step in my journey was realizing that it is impossible to defeat fascism with the power of love. Chapter 2. The Power of Incredible.
I want you to know you could know me.
Dear President Vladimir Putin, I'm so sorry that I was not your mother.
If you change your mind.
On the 24th of September 2025, actress, activist, and discourse vortex Emma Watson, most famous for playing the role of an anti-slavery activist who is presented as being out of touch and unwilling to accept that magical slavery is good actually in the Harry Potter series, appeared on the Jay Shetty podcast. I've never listened to Jay Shetty, and to be honest, I never plan to. The whole life coach podcast genre kind of makes me want to throw up in my mouth, and to be honest, I think self-help as a whole genre is just kind of a scam. But whatever, I'm sure for a self-help guy, he's fine, and if he's not, then people let me know in the comments. The only reason I know at all about this podcast is because of what Emma Watson, still in the shadow of the character of Hermione Granger, despite now being 35 and almost 2 decades removed from anything Harry Potter related, was asked on the show in a move perfectly designed to both make headlines and make me personally tear all of my hairs out one by one until I look like Varys from Game of Thrones but with big naturals. She was asked about J.K. Rowling, who has attacked Watson multiple times on social media for thinking trans people shouldn't all be put to the sword.
I don't know, I just see this world right now where we seem to be giving permission for this kind of like throwing out of people, or that people are disposable, and I just think I will always think that's wrong.
Disappointed!
Now, Rowling has implied on many occasions that she finds Emma Watson not being transphobic unforgivable, actually saying at one point that she will never forgive her for the high crime of being a human being with basic empathy. One social media user replied to Rowling, "Just waiting for Dan and Emma to give you a very public apology, safe in the knowledge that you will forgive them." The Harry Potter author responded, "Not safe, I'm afraid. Celebs who cozied up to a movement intent on eroding women's hard-won rights, and who used their platforms to cheer on the transitioning of minors, can save their apologies for traumatized detransitioners and vulnerable women reliant on single-sex spaces." And she's made it clear that she is outraged that Watson and the other actors who brought her book series to life have an opinion on the human rights of trans people, seeing it as a personal attack. "Emma and Dan in particular have both made it clear over the last few years that they think our former professional association gives them a particular right, nay, obligation, to critique me and my views in public." In fact, it went further than this. Rowling now admits that she saw Emma Watson standing up for trans people as pouring more petrol on the flames of the backlash she was receiving on social media. Backlash she was receiving for coming out proudly against trans people having a right to live in dignity, and the belief that we're all serial predators running a secret conspiracy to destroy and replace cis women, and more sinister machinations besides. Because of this, you might think that the safest thing to do in this situation, and the best thing for everyone involved, would be to stick to your guns. Stay the course in your defence of trans people, and leave Rowling to be the pariah she's become. Instead, Emma Watson spoke about Rowling fondly, recalling their relationship on the set of Potter and how she'd looked up to her, and went further, saying that she could never stop loving her and never would cut her off completely.
Her kindness and words of encouragement and that steadfastness, and also, honestly, just as a young woman, for her to have written that character, created that world, given me an opportunity which, to be honest, barely exists in the history of English literature. How can I... There's just no world in which I could ever cancel her out or cancel that out for anything. It has to remain true. It is true. And this is where this holding of these... I just don't know what else to do other than hold these two seemingly incompatible things together at the same time, and just, I can love her, I can know she loved me, I can be grateful to her, I can know the things that she said are true.
Now, as a trans person, I find this completely revolting. J.K. Rowling is actively funding and campaigning for the eradication of trans people from society, banning our healthcare, banning us from public spaces, leading to the deaths of children, a culture of fear around public toilets and public spaces in general, which is hurting mainly cis women who present as butch, but is designed to remove trans people completely from public life, and she will not stop until not a single trans person remains with a voice or remains visible in public. As I have unfortunately had to say several times before, J.K. Rowling's ultimate goal is that every trans person has to make a single choice: the closet or the casket.
Your diary must look odd. Get up in the morning, death, 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 death.
But I know what family is like. I understand that when you grow up with someone, your feelings about them, even when they're saying or doing stuff that is completely horrendous, remain complicated, even fond, despite everything, in many cases. I understand where this empathy comes from. I understand feeling this way. The thing is, J.K. Rowling is no longer the person Watson knew, and her reply to Emma Watson saying these things that honestly hurt trans people like me to hear, was to be vindictive and venomous. Emma Watson tried to reach out to a fascist with empathy.
Something's wrong with me. No!
And that fascist, once a children's book author and her mentor, took that personally. So here is a perfect demonstration of what happens when you try to solve fascism with the power of love and friendship. An unnecessarily long rant where Rowling implies she lived in poverty, by which she means that she was upper middle class, where she claims trans people are trying to get her assassinated, which is just batshit levels of paranoia for someone actively engaged in the extermination of an entire minority group, where she accuses Emma Watson of being astoundingly ignorant, with no life experience, essentially a child trapped in an adult's body, with no ability to understand complex thoughts, or ever have enough agency or intelligence to have come to her own conclusions and lived her own life separate from the mold-infested, castle-dwelling life of the poor, hard-done-to billionaire hate campaigner. This is why you don't meet fascism with kindness. If you know someone personally, taking them to the side in private, explaining things to them, pressuring them, that can make a dent. If they're not too far in it, they still might listen to you. But going on a big platform and announcing your love, devotion and forgiveness for someone and trying to put people you supposedly care about in the ground? That gets you rants like this.
I'm seeing quite a bit of comment about this, so I want to make a couple of points. I'm not owed eternal agreement from any actor who once played a character I created. That idea is as ludicrous as me checking with the boss I had when I was 21 for what opinions I should hold these days. Emma Watson and her co-stars have every right to embrace gender identity ideology. Such beliefs are legally protected, and I wouldn't want to see any of them threatened with loss of work or violence or death because of them. However, Emma and Dan in particular have both made it clear over the past few years that they think our former professional association gives them a particular right, nay, obligation, to critique me and my views in public. Years after they finished acting in Potter, they continue to assume the role of de facto spokespeople for the world I created. When you've known people since they were 10 years old, it's hard to shake off a certain protectiveness. Until quite recently, I hadn't managed to throw off the memory of children who needed to be gently coaxed through their dialogue in a big scary film studio.
For the past few years, I've repeatedly declined invitations from journalists to comment on Emma specifically, most notably on the witch trials of J.K. Rowling. Ironically, I told the producers that I didn't want her to be hounded as the result of anything I said. The television presenter in the attached clip highlights Emma's All Witches speech, and in truth, that was a turning point for me.
Our next presenter is Emma Watson. She's proud to call herself a feminist, but we all know she's a witch.
I'm here for all of the witches.
But it had a postscript that had far more than the speech itself. Emma asked someone to pass on a handwritten note from her to me, which contained the single sentence, "I'm so sorry for what you're going through." She has my phone number. This was back when the death threats against me were at their peak, at a time when my personal security measures had to be tightened considerably, and I was constantly worried for my family's safety. Emma had just publicly poured more petrol on the flames, yet thought a one-line expression of concern from her would reassure me of her fundamental sympathy and kindness. Like other people who've never experienced adult life, uncushioned by wealth and fame, Emma has so little experience of real life, she's ignorant of how ignorant she is. She'll never need a homeless shelter. She's never going to be placed in a mixed-sex public hospital ward. I'd be astounded if she's been in a high street changing room since childhood. Her public bathroom is single occupancy and comes with a security man standing guard outside the door. Has she had to strip off in a newly mixed-sex changing room at a council-run swimming pool? Is she ever likely to need a state-run crisis centre that refuses to guarantee an all-female service? To find herself sharing a prison cell with a male who's identified into the women's prison? I wasn't a multi-millionaire at 14. I lived in poverty while writing the book that made Emma famous. She didn't live in poverty. I therefore understand from my own life experience what the trashing of women's rights in which Emma has so enthusiastically participated means to women and girls without her privileges. The greatest irony here is that, had Emma not decided in her most recent interview to declare that she loves and treasures me, her change of tack I suspect she's adopted because she's noticed full-throated condemnation of me is no longer quite as fashionable as it was, I might never have been this honest. Adults can't expect to cozy up to an activist movement that regularly calls for a friend's assassination, that assert their right to the former friend's love, as though the friend was in fact their mother. Emma is rightly free to disagree with me, and indeed to discuss her feelings about me in public, but I have the same right, and I've finally decided to exercise it. Well, that was long and full of falsehoods. J.K. Rowling was never poor. For a start, there's a whole video on that you can watch.
If you're not poor enough to accept donated toys for your baby, you are not as poor as it's possible to be without being homeless. You can't just make hundreds of millions of dollars and still be magically middle class. She said, "Aloha pora."
But despite what the truth is, Rowling truly believes that she is right here. She is on a crusade to destroy trans people for good. She doesn't think we're real people. She thinks that if enough barriers are put in the way of our existence, that we will detransition. Because she thinks we are opportunistic predators looking to creep on cis women, or in the case of trans men, poor tricked women hypnotised by the dangerous trans cult, which is the aforementioned opportunistic predator cabal. She thinks if we can't live as trans people, we'll just shake our fists in the air and shout, "Curses! Foiled again!" before going back to traditional ways of being creeps to women, like the kind of things that Rowling likes when her associates like Graham Linehan do it.
This groomer has been filming people all day.
And you've been calling children domestic terrorists on Twitter.
Scumbag and an
You're a
incel
scumbag. You're the incel. You're divorced.
That he's a woman. So he
You're
can get into women's
divorced.
spaces.
You're divorced,
he's
Graham.
Disgusting.
You're disgusting, Graham. You're divorced.
Sissy
what?
Watching Scumbag.
And you're calling me the groomer
There
when
you
you're
go,
assuming.
mate.
Or like Marilyn Manson, who Rowling sent a lovely bouquet of flowers to after it was revealed that he domestically abused Evan Rachel Wood.
Evan Rachel Wood is revealing more details about the alleged abuse she experienced from Marilyn Manson, whom she dated from 2007 to 2010.
Truly the behaviour of someone acting in the best interests of women and girls, and who cares about gendered violence? In contrast, Emma Watson knows that she is right. She probably knows trans people in real life and actually cares about her fellow human beings. I mean, I don't know that for sure, but it's much easier to be transphobic in British celebrity culture at the moment than to stand up for trans people. So the fact that she does openly support trans people at least lends credibility to the fact that she's coming from a place of genuine empathy. She has made concrete moves to oppose transphobic actions by the British government and the courts, and has used her social media platform to loudly tell people she is, as she said in an awards ceremony, for all witches. She tried to bring that same empathy to Rowling, in an attempt, presumably, to help her understand it. To, as she put it, have that conversation. I think that she really believes if she can have an honest conversation with Rowling about this, coming at her with love and empathy, that Rowling will reconsider. This isn't Steven Universe. Rowling isn't going to change her mind with a conversation. Even Stephen Fry, who stood up for Rowling as a friend despite not being actively transphobic, has since publicly given up on that and acknowledged how far gone she is. At this point, trying to reach out to her, offering a helping hand, is only making her pull back further and lash out. And beyond that, Rowling doesn't even believe that Watson is sincerely trying an olive branch. She thinks she's come crawling back because Rowling has been proven right and that everyone now agrees with her. Because she is completely detached from reality and is now the epicenter of an online cult, surrounded by her fellow gender-critical sycophants, spending all her days on a social media hugbox. She is unable to perceive herself the way others perceive her. Others perhaps worried for her health, for her isolation, as well as worried about the people she is hurting. She replies to attempts to pull her back from the brink now with scorn and smugness, convinced that she is a righteous crusader for justice. Just a children's author, having her ego stroked by insane Twitter mutuals, burdened with glorious purpose.
Following the actress's interview, Rowling posted on X on Thursday a little reminder for anyone who may be regretting their very public sprint to the front of the mob and is now trying to discreetly shove their pitchfork out of sight. She didn't specifically mention Watson or anyone else by name in this post. The author linked to a post she wrote in May, which began, "In light of recent open letters from academia and the arts criticising the UK Supreme Court ruling on sex-based rights, it's possibly worth remembering that nobody sane believes, or has ever believed, that humans can change sex, or that binary sex isn't a material fact." Watson was among 1,600 film and TV figures who signed an open letter saying they stand in solidarity with the trans, non-binary and intersex communities who were affected by the Supreme Court ruling, which said a woman is defined by biological sex under equalities law. The, unfortunately, many times that a fascist or exterminationist movement has gained power in a country and its influence results in the degradation of rights and state violence against a minority group, under the guise of some flimsy nativist excuse like protecting women and girls from this dangerous minority, a classic used against black people, Muslims, gay people and trans people just in living memory. Every time that spectre comes to haunt us, it's never been defeated by those being suppressed, those being legislated out of existence, and those being left for dead. Reaching out with love and joy and friendship to the people trying to exterminate them and eradicate them from public life entirely. It doesn't work. You can't fight a boot stamping on a human face forever by giving that boot a hug. That only makes the stamping more effective. Boot licking doesn't even protect the one or two people who successfully tie their wagon to the cause of the destruction of their people. Eventually, those they are helping to betray their own kind come for them too. Hugging the boot just makes you easier to squash. So not only did every newspaper in Britain print a story about how horrible Emma Watson was being to J.K. Rowling for the crime of saying she'll never stop thinking fondly of her, but she was presented as an entitled narcissist who's preying on the poor defenceless billionaires running their innocent, wholesome hate campaigns against horrible minority groups. For example, take this column by Sarah Vine, columnist of the year according to a jury of her glue-sniffing peers, and former wife of Conservative Party bigwig and small boy trapped in the body of a befleshed puppet, Michael Gove, declaring, "Emma Watson's so typical of the entitled generation who think they're right about everything, like the young woman who rolled her eyes at me the other day."
I think you might have some issues of your own to work through here, Sarah.
I feel like this isn't about me.
So, if Emma Watson idealistically coming at this situation with care and empathy not only didn't work, but backfired and resulted in a smear campaign in every newspaper in the country by a billionaire who believes she's physically and mentally incapable of having an opinion, what should she have done instead? What are we to do when we have the opportunity to say something directly to someone causing so much harm and damage? Someone who will hear what we have to say. Well, for a start, don't do this. Asking an exterminationist cult leader living in luxury if they can change their mind might work in cartoons, but this is real life. And we have history to look at to see how these movements were successfully thwarted before. And from the mass die-ins by ACT UP to the Stonewall riots, from the Black Panthers and to the civil rights struggle, to even union militancy for the working classes, the only way to push these groups back, the only way to push back against hate, is to organise and to fight back. You can't push back against oppressors by being kind to them. You organise, you train, you get people together with a strong sense of solidarity and ready and willing and able to fight wherever they need to or can do to advance the struggle and fight to not just get their place in the society that wants them gone, but to change society into a better place that won't push them out, that works better for them, a place where they can truly feel alive, where they have dignity and agency and aren't just struggling every day to not get destroyed by those wearing the boot, but those who failed to try to lick and ended up smashed into pancakes on the street by trying the same tactics Emma Watson tried here. You need to become inevitable. You need the will to fight. Do not kneel, do not compromise. Hold fast and make of yourselves a force that people cannot ignore. A force that those who are indifferent to you and even some of your enemies will have to approach, will have to reach out to. Because to oppose you, or even ignore you, is so obviously an injustice, so obviously wrong, and so obviously bad for them, that it reveals them to be heartless or cynical. We are not here to beg for scraps from people who want us dead. As Angela Davis once said, I am no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I am changing the things that I cannot accept. Thanks for watching.
But I want you to know you could know me if you change your mind.
Hey, thank you for watching this video all the way to the end. If you liked it, give it a like, leave a comment, subscribe, share it with all your friends, and tell everyone about it. Help me out if you can. It's coming up to autumn when my birthday is. It's in October, so I'm pushing to get my Bridget Empire out of her overdraft before her birthday initiative. That didn't make grammatical sense, but you get it, which will inevitably probably extend to the Get Bridget Empire out of her overdraft before Christmas initiative. So if you want to help with this and get me debt-free before 34, you can give me one-time donations on Coffee or PayPal, links below. You can go to my Fourth Wall page, which has some shirts on it now, if you like a shirt. It's got a Daily Telegraph on it. I'll put some on screen now. And if I didn't, it means that I forgot to do that. So hopefully I didn't forget to do that. Also, help me out if you can. 'Tis the season, and by season I mean my birthday. And also I'm going through some pretty bad personal stuff, which is making me very sad and means I might need a big lump of money in the future. So if you can help me gather that lump of money, I'd really help, as well as the get out of the overdraft thing. So just in general, things might be looking pretty dire for a little bit, but yeah, if you can't help, don't feel bad about that. But if you can, do. Or the best way to do that is to sign up to my Patreon or YouTube memberships, where you can do the best thing that you want me to do. You can be my best friend, and by best friend I mean my patron. You can get early videos, access to the members only Discord, manage to switch friend code, and exclusive content such as long form interviews. And also, you get your name read out at the end of each video, just like these lovely people. Buried Elk, Ewan Bennett, Dags, Malcolm, Gina Service, You Are Made of Stupid, Tomo, Melissa Jackson, Ren Approves Your Stuff, Minstrel of course, Emma Not Emma, Jeffreyon, Tom the Not Quite So Brave as Sir, Lancelot, LFR, Tricoi, Proquar, Ariella, Robin Thomas, Kathy 1410 Itchy, Justice for my boy Gandalf, Gull Escape, Kira B, No Sparkling Heart, Corey, Gianna J, Mighted in the Sword, Carolyn, Imogen Q, Luciana Frias Andrade, Adam, Harry, Endog191, Cav, Quesadilla de Tortilla, Zul, Leron, Adam Lees, Daniel Nevels, no, not that Paul, MB, Wandering Wonder, Lex Phoenix, Enter Kurzitz, Mira D, J Senior, Boa Ear, James W, Marvin Dorr, Foreign Guild, Deborah Laboon, Zilla's Athenaeum, Vince Whitaker, Amelia Lassette, Jason Haig, Franklin Manus, Susan Foster, Helena Real, Sierra Whiskey, Ali Catgill, John N, Lloyd Luciente, Jason Cribbett, Shield Baden, Robin Podolsky, Nightlife, Plushy Jesus, Casual Observer, Manta Ray, Courtney Burmack, Sleepy Sled, Phil Peterbrugger, Soa Piglet, Brain Douche, Artie Wolf, Greg Noble, Deanne McMillan, Karen Regalado, Alexandra Lilly, PJ Lisbrough, Howard Lott, Nereneus Guardian, and Jade Luciferian, Taraxis Builds Things, and Sarah Francesca Smith. Thank you all so much. Have a great day and a great life, and yeah. Check in on your people, because sometimes things are hard and they need a hug. I need a hug.